Our Castrol Active champion today is an artist and a gentleman. Never played a shot in anger, hardly ever uttered a word in anger. It was wonderful watching VVS Laxman bat. First heard about him in 1994. The veteran journalist Dicky Ratnagar said, just in conversation, he said, forget everybody else, your next big player is VVS Laxman, go and watch him play. And then of course he made his debut in 1996, but we were to see the first glimpses of greatness in 1998. He was opening the batting for India at the Eden Gardens against Australia, turned up the day before a game and there were no net bowlers for him. And he was looking a bit grouchy when I looked at him and said, would you mind if just a television anchor came and bowled to you? And it was great fun. I must have bowled half an hour and then I realized how quickly the ball leaves the bat. When he drives it back to you, you get out very, very quickly. Unconnected, the next day he went and showed his footwork against Shane Warne. Everybody talks about 2001, but that was an innings to remember. It was also the starting point of a love affair at international cricket against Australia. He got runs at under 19 level against Australia, against a very good bowling attack, but this was something else. And then came that magnificent 167 at Sydney, the 2001 281 in Kolkata, then 178 and 148 in that 2003-4 series, 109 when he came back to Sydney. Sydney and Laxman have always had a love affair. He had, 300s in 4 test matches there. And he emerged as Australia's Indian enemy #1. There were 3 triple-hundred partnerships in a 3-year span. And you could say, when it came to Australia, VVS Laxman was India's big protector. Much like Castrol Active Actibonds protect your bike engine, whether it's running or off. I remember Tendulkar saying about that 178 in Sydney, that at the other end was the master in denial, not playing a cover drive. And he said, I'd be at the non-strikers and it was so frustrating because I had told myself I won't play the cover drive. And he said, there was Laxman, imperious as ever. He was just peeling off one drive after the other. And he said it was almost akin to someone having a feast at the other end and you starving at the other. I've always wondered how VVS Laxman would go at #3 because he was just such a different player in that position. He batted with abandon. He was peeling off shots. Remember the 281 came at #3. But it wasn't to be for Laxman at 3 because Rahul Dravid had made that position his own with a series of stunning performances. And so Laxman started to make a place for himself at #5 and 6. And slowly, as his legs grew a little heavier, and he was no longer striding out to the spinners, he started to reinvent himself batting with the tail. And what magnificent performances he produced, whether it was the Johannesburg Test match of 2006 or the Perth Test match of 2008, both of which India won, and that great year in 2010. India saved the Test match in Ahmedabad, but India won in Colombo, India won in Durban, and of course that great Test match in Mohali, in each of which VVS Laxman had a central starring role. And we would say right through this phase that VVS Laxman had begun to protect the lower order and indeed protect India out of situations like those, much like Castrol Active Actibonds protect your bike engine, whether running or off.
Laxman was very good with giving confidence. You know, he's very smart in terms of not really being pushy out there and not really putting too much pressure in terms of, okay, you have to do this, you have to do that, or you can't afford to do this. He would talk about, having the small targets, need not be in terms of runs, but it can be in terms of, seeing that 10-15 minutes off. And he was my batting coach as well. So in between the phase around that time, when we used to have a lot of jokes and laughs about technique, because I would not listen to Laxman too much. But when it comes to batting with him in the middle, I would make sure that the seriousness of the situation is taken into consideration.
The numbers tell a story for VVS Laxman, but they tell you such a small part of the story. Because to watch Laxman was to enjoy Test cricket in all its glory. They said about Laxman, as indeed they said about another similar player from his home state, Mohammad Azharuddin, that it was like throwing a ball in a revolving door. You didn't know which side it was going to come out from, because VVS Laxman had the innate ability to punch a ball off the back foot through extra cover, and yet the very same ball bowled next in the same area would be hurtling just between square and mid-wicket for 4, because his wrists were just magical. There was so much joy watching VVS Laxman bat. And that is why when T20 came calling, it was just not for him. It was like a classical musician being asked to do rock and roll. And you thought, no, VVS Laxman will never find a home in T20 cricket. And yet see what he's done. Once he's finished with the game, he's starting to build a little institution back in his hometown. What him and Tom Moody are doing with Sunrisers Hyderabad, picking young players, getting them to develop and using the T20 route to teach them the values of the game is a magnificent experiment where Laxman is keeping the legacy of his game alive. It's been wonderful watching VVS Laxman over the years. If you say to yourself, I just want to close my eyes and enjoy batsmanship, who would you want to watch? And I think a lot of people would say VVS Laxman, and that's why he's our Castrol Active champion today.